Mauna Loa is not erupting, but scientists with the USGS Hawaiian Volcano Observatory are watching it closely. Measurements continue to show inflation of the magma reservoir beneath the massive volcano. Mauna Loa is on a yellow advisory alert level, one category down from nearby Kilauea volcano, which is on an orange watch as it erupts lava at the summit and on its East Rift zone. Mauna Loa is the focus of this week's Volcano Watch article, written by U.S. Geological Survey Hawaiian Volcano Observatory scientists. The article introduces new maps produced by the USGS that identify lava inundation zones for the volcano. The maps will help Hawaii County Civil Defense and other emergency managers identify people, property, and facilities at risk during future eruptions. Scientists say most of Mauna Loa's eruptive fissures and vents are located at the summit of the volcano and along two rift zones that extend northeast and southwest from the volcano's summit caldera. A few vents, however, occur along radial fissures that extend primarily north and west from the summit. HVO constructed 9 maps depicting 18 inundation zones on Mauna Loa. Each zone identifies a segment of the volcano that could erupt lava and send flows downslope. The information is critical for response planning. When a Mauna Loa eruption starts, the maps can help decision-makers quickly identify communities, infrastructure, and roads between possible vent locations and the coast, facilitating more efficient and effective allocation of response resources. The public can also use the maps to consider where lava flows might go once an eruption starts. They are available online through the USGS website. Before these maps were published, we sat down with Hawaii County Civil Defense Administrator Talmadge Magno to talk about the emergency response in case of a Mauna Loa eruption. Talmadge, what about the potential, which is very real, of an upcoming Mauna Loa eruption? I've talked with the head of Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, Tina Neal, fairly recently, and they're preparing at Hawaiian Volcano Observatory as not an if on that, but a when. So from the Hawaii County Civil Defense standpoint, tell us what we need to know about a potential Mauna Loa eruption.
Well, we've talked to HVO as well. And of course, in my previous job, I had a pretty good relationship with them, monitoring Kilauea as well as Mauna Loa. And they elevated the alert level for Mauna Loa, 2 years ago. And so they've been watching it, and it's kind of maintained that upper level activity. And so we've got that on our horizons. We'll be probably working with them to put some information out to the public, maybe having some neighborhood meetings and so forth.
If Mauna Loa erupts, one of the things that is true about that and very different from Kilauea is the lava would tend to be more voluminous and it would tend to move more rapidly. And in 1950, I know the lava went from the top of Mauna Loa to the South Kona coast within 3 hours. If it looks like there's that kind of eruption on Mauna Loa, how would Hawaii County Civil Defense notify people who are likely to be in the impact area? What would you do? Because that's a pretty quick-moving disaster.
Yes, and that's something we're definitely looking at. We understand that, and you say 3 hours from eruption to sea level, and the population in that area is right along the highways, so you can cut the time even in half, possibly in that worst-case scenario. So we have limited time. Hopefully, preparations, the community outreach that we do will get people prepared. We'll definitely have to make sure that HVO gets us the warnings as soon as they sense any activity. And you have the precursors, the tremor swarms and so forth, increased inflation, all those signs that might lead to an eruption. So they'll give us that information ahead of time. And so hopefully we'll have at least a few hours to get word out. Then we'll go to our normal sequence. After we get the information from them, it'll be either the radio message, our blackboard, and then of course, in the worst case scenario, we utilize the other government agencies, other departments, we can go door to door and go through neighborhoods.
Well, it sounds like if Mauna Loa had that kind of eruption, and it's never known until the eruption starts what is going to happen, but if it were going to be that type of eruption, it would sound like you would really need door-to-door notification just to make sure people really got the word and realized how serious the threat was. So would all agencies be involved with that? How would you actually do that? What have you talked about with the other local agencies about how you would pull that kind of notification off?
Well, we haven't talked to them specifically related to Mauna Loa, but we utilize all the other departments for high surf, flooding, and so forth. So when we activate the EOC, they're here. We utilize their staff, to do such things like that. To contact the public or whatever the need be, close down roads, monitor areas, and so forth. So they will be as a resource for us to do that.
In 1950, the population was fairly low compared to what the population is today. And one thing that Tina Neal mentioned to me is there's always the possibility of a Mauna Loa eruption actually cutting the highway in two places, which could leave an isolated community if people had not vacated that community. Is that something that you have thought about, and how you would actually get people out of that community or get supplies into them if that were to occur?
Actually, I thought about it, and that was actually a reality with Pu'u'o and Royal Gardens. People were isolated up there, and I saw, their resourcefulness and what they did. But yeah, that's something that we're going to have to deal with. Also, one other complication to that area is that it's kind of spotty as far as cell service, radio coverage, public radio coverage. And so that's why even more so going into the neighborhoods door to door will probably come into play in those areas.
Is that the kind of event for which you would activate your community emergency response teams around the island, the CERT teams that you train to be sort of civil defense assisters in specific communities?
That's a possibility, but you got to realize that we like to use the community emergency response teams from that particular area. And if they're going to be impacted, we kind of recognize that. We don't want to really use them. They're going to have to take care of their private lives as well. So maybe the adjacent CERT teams, but definitely they're a resource that we could use.